Yeah, Mason's house
I
on
see
fire.
it, Mason.
Yeah.
He didn't like the silence, huh?
Yeah.
We'll see how closely he edits. All right. You can edit that part out, Mason.
I mean, you could have introduced everybody else.
Yeah, you're right. All right, here we go.
My toilet was running.
Better go catch it. All right. Welcome, friends and family, to episode number 27 of the Backdoor Cut Show, our Zaza Pachulia episode. I'm your guy, Barnburner Bro, Zach, and with me today, I got my three amigos, Slick Rich, in the Uptown. How are you, man?
Man, I'm doing good, man. Pretty interesting week for the Grizzlies. Ready to get into it. Dive deep. Let's get it.
Interesting is a good way to put it. Also, we got the West Coast Vino, Slim, Mason. How you doing?
Hey, man, Grizzlies won 3 of the last 4. We got 25 games remaining, and let's convey this pick.
The Chief, the founding father. How are you feeling about this week?
It's been a good week, man. Me and CJ Miles versus the world. We're sitting firmly in the 6th seed of the Tankathon. We want to be around 9. Orlando's won a lot of games recently, so fuck them. But I'm ready to talk about the Grizzlies.
What's the big idea, Orlando? Get out of there. All right, so, yeah, Mason, you mentioned that Grizzlies have won 3 of the last 4 going back to last week. So we'll kind of start off. This week was obviously super exciting week. Trade deadline was Thursday. Some moves were made. I don't know if they were necessarily the moves that everyone thought would be made. Certainly not any moves that were rumored to be made leading up to the trade deadline. But it kind of all started on, I think it was Monday or Tuesday, early in the week. The Timberwolves came to the Forum. No Derrick Rose, unfortunately. But that was kind of the day the rumors were flying about Mark getting traded. It was widely speculated that deal was pretty much done, that Mark was going to be going to Charlotte and that they were just kind of haggling over some of the details. So Mark didn't even play against the Wolves. He did come out in the first quarter, and a few people noticed, and then everyone else, eventually it ended in him getting a standing ovation, which I thought was a pretty cool moment. Kind of like a goodbye for Mark. And so that was kind of a memorable moment, that one of those things that, like, if you're there, you'll always remember that you were there. Mark's, not even his last game, the last game that he was there, like physically, because he didn't actually play, so it wasn't actually his last game. But that was fun, and that was like a big game for Jaren, Mike. A lot of guys on the Grizz really stepped it up that game in the absence of Mark, and I think that kind of showed you where we're headed in the future and like what the rest of the season, a real big sneak peek into what the rest of the season will look like. What do you guys think about the decision to sit Mark when apparently a trade wasn't like even that close to being done?
I mean, I don't know if it was too much of a decision. I think Mark was planning on sitting himself out of that one, it seemed like. I mean, the guy came to the arena, cleaned out his locker, took his nameplate and all that, and, had his little swan song in the first half. So I think more than anything, and then after seeing that he waived his trade kicker, I think more than anything, Mark was ready to go, and probably has been for a while now. So, good for Mark. He gets to go to Toronto. I think that his preference of where he wanted to be traded definitely played a role into the move. He gets to reunite with the Spanish national coach. And this Toronto and San Antonio are kind of the 2 places that have always been linked with Mark outside of the Grizzlies. So I'm sure that played a role into it. But, a weird week, but appreciate everything you did, Big Spain, but I'm ready to move forward into the future and see what this new up-tempo style Grizz can look like.
Yeah, I think it's just another instance of just like news, like just leaking and just getting out. Like, you see some franchises that making these massive moves this week and you don't even hear about it until the trade's official. And I think like similar to Slim, like, I think Mark was kind of in a sense just ready. I mean, I saw that Instagram and that tweet he posted on Thursday. Like he was just like, yo, like I'm ready. Let's get this done. Like let's get it moving. And I too, you know, I'm happy that he's able to go somewhere where I feel like he'll fit in pretty nicely. He has a chance to contend for a championship. And I think like, you know, for both parties involved, I think I'm just glad that that whole saga is over. It's done. The Charlotte deals that were coming, like I was never quite sure who the players that were coming back were. Like I was saying Biombo, MKG, I saw Malik Monk for like 10 minutes and I like got super excited. But for Mark to be able to go to Toronto, I think is a good fit for him. So shout out Big Spain. We'll never forget what you did.
I think there's a lot of argument about like what the pick, what protection the pick was, and then like whether or not they're going to throw in a good play, like a good young player like Malik Monk or one of Jaren's boy from Michigan State. But you know, it was awkward, and I really don't understand why. I guess the Jimmy Butler thing was pretty public too. That trade. I mean, not every trade goes by silently. Not every trade's blown up on social media, but it certainly seems like more of them are probably kind of executed under the cover of, hey, let's make sure this is a fucking deal before we leak it. I can't imagine in any other business why you would leak something before it's done. Like, what? Who cares if the people are in talks to do something? Like, it's an interesting. It's an interesting thing. It seems to happen to the Grizzlies more often than not. So I don't really know what's going on there, but it is weird. So yeah, I was. That game was weird to be at for that reason. It was cool for you got a swan song. I was super thankful for one really important thing while I was there, and that thing was that Andrew Wiggins does not wear a Memphis Grizzlies jersey. And hopefully he never will, because dude, bum status, dude, 5 of 18, he had like 14 points, 1 of 6 from 3, and he literally sucks the life out of everyone on his team. So I was really thankful for that. And also Derrick Rose has only played like 3 times in the FedEx Forum since he graduated, or by graduated I mean had someone else take his ACT. Like he never plays in Memphis. Like I know he's been in the East, so he only gets 1 shot, but like due to injuries or him sitting out, he has only played his 10-year career 3 of the past 10 seasons. So it's kind of interesting. I wonder if he's targeting this game or what, but that's 2 unrelated to Mark things that I observed from that Minnesota game.
Man, T-Wolves suck.
So here's something I was just thinking of.
Yeah, they're poorly run too. Like I'm super happy that I'm out of T-Wolves. Like we talk about the Grizzlies a lot, but man, T-Wolves and
like I don't know where they go.
Yeah, what's the plan? They're that purgatory team.
And they don't have like Jaren Jackson. They don't have a guy like that. I guess they got Cat. That's true.
He's a two-time All-Star, dude.
Yeah, my bad. Okay, that was dumb.
Yeah,
they
fucking paid him too. He got fucking paid.
Yeah.
But Dario Saric, a guy that like I would love for him to be a Grizz.
Okay, Vernon.
I hadn't heard that from him. I just watch the games, man. I'm just telling you what I see.
That's a bro original take there, dude.
Yeah, no, but Vernon was like,
I didn't hear it.
He dove into the chair and he was like, that's the type of guy I want on my team. And I saw people on Twitter making fun of him, saying like, Vernon sees a squirrel run across Poplar. And he's like, that squirrel. I'll take it.
That squirrel is tough. He's tough. He's a dog, and I want him on my team. He's a dog. Sorry.
Sarge does not look like an NBA player. He looks like he's kind of pear-shaped and everything, but I mean, he's pretty...
Should just say this man was pear-shaped.
He kind of is, man. He looks kind of lumpy.
But that's so accurate.
All right. So on to the Marc Gasol trade. We traded Big Spain to Toronto, and in return, we got Jonas Valanciunas, DeLon Wright, CJ Miles, and a 2nd-round pick in like 2024 or something like that. So, Rich, what were your initial impressions on the return we got from Mark?
Oh man, so like I was at the office all day Thursday. You know, supposed to be doing work, not doing work. Just
shout out, not doing shit at the office on Thursday.
Shout out,
it was impossible.
Yeah.
On Twitter the entire time. So, you know, as the time was inching closer, you know, I'm like, okay, shit, it's like 2 p.m. Like, fuck, like Grizzlies, don't let me down again. And then when the trade came across from Woj, well, he first initially was like, you know, Grizzlies are in talks to send Marc Gasol to Toronto. And then he came back with the package tweet. And when I saw who we received, man, to be honest, my initial reaction was positive. When I saw Valanciunas, DeLon Wright, CJ Miles, as well as the second round pick, I wasn't really focused on the pick. I saw, players who, Toronto can definitely it was a luxury that they were on Toronto's roster. Toronto's just so deep that some of these guys were kind of lost in the shuffle. But Valanciunas, I've always been a Valanciunas fan. I think he'll come in and severely help with the rebounding for our squad, where we tend to struggle in the rebounding department. DeLon Wright, not super duper young. I believe he's like 26, 27. But I think, I know he's a restricted free agent this summer, so I'm interested to see what the Grizzlies are, planning in that regard. But I think he too, is another ball handler, solid backcourt floor general. And then CJ Miles, who's just been around the block for, a million years. I think he can come in and be an additional veteran leadership voice in the locker room. He can knock down the open three, which is, always welcome. And so for me, as I went to bed Wednesday night, hoping that I didn't wake up to Bismack Biyombo and Michael Kidd-Gilchrist press conferences in Memphis, I was super pleased with, the return that we got from the Raptors.
Yeah, and I think overall, talent-wise, we got a good haul, but a lot of Grizz Nation was kind of fixated on the picks.
Right.
Chief, what do you think about the lack of picks returning in this deal, as well as kind of the contracts of the players that we took on?
Yeah, you'd be able to speak more to this too, but I mean, like you said, my eyes whenever that tweet came across. Which, by the way, I scheduled a meeting with the client at 1:30, and I have no idea why I did that. Like, it was totally up to me. And I knew the trade deadline was 2, and I could have said it any fucking time in the afternoon. But I chose 1:30, and I have no idea why. And it's totally fell on me. So I was really mad at myself. So that kind of tempered the excitement. So I was sitting on my phone, not paying attention to the meeting. And so I honed in on the pick, and it was second round. And for some reason, my brain had been so wholly focused on getting a first round for Mark. So I sort of was centered on that Charlotte trade. Even if I had to take on Biyombo and MKG, I was like, okay, first round or whatever, those are huge assets. You can package them, whatever. I was just like ready for that. And then I saw the second rounder and no young players, as Rich mentioned. DeLon Wright's 26, Jose our boy Jose
he's gonna have to come on just so we can.
Damn, you incepted my ass, man. Like, you went to the third dream level, and like his name's now Jose. So he's 26. He's 26, and so there was no young player, so it didn't accomplish either of what I had set out to do in my brain, which was first round picks or young players or some combo therein. So initially I was like, what the fuck? But then as we dive more into it, and then realized apparently, we've seen this front office multiple times, revisionist, retcon goals, depending on what ultimately happens. They're like, oh, no, actually we want to convey the pick. That's what we said at the beginning of the season, remember? And it was like, yeah, but then also maybe not. There was Grit and Grind 2.0 also. You remember that? So there's this.
Yeah, there was 50 games after we were 12-5. In Perez's interview with Calkins. So it was
right.
Yeah, we can win 50 games.
Yeah. So props to them for just completely. I mean, honestly, they got no shame, and so I almost to some degree respect it. But no shame to their game, I guess. But so I guess the goal now is to we got theoretically roster upgrades. I think we're probably a little better talent, or at least deeper, certainly. And the way the contract are structured, and again, you can see more of this, is that most of these guys are either expirings this summer, restricted free agents. Essentially, we have a lot of options of what to do with them, and a lot of them would become trade assets as expiring deals this upcoming summer. So I guess the notion is to try to win with them now, at least win enough to convey the pick now, and then flip them for picks this summer after we've conveyed that pick. I guess would be, in a perfect world, what we do with these guys. And then DeLon Wright and Jonas, you can turn into meaningful additions if we decide to pay them what we need to keep them. They are 26, but they could give you can sign them to a 4-year deal, get them for the rest of their prime, and have them around. And so that's an option we have too as a team. So. Initially I was like, I don't know what the hell. And then when you dive into it, you can kind of see some sort of vision, whether that vision is accidental or not. What'd you think, Slim?
After taking some time, I cooled off. I didn't like it at first, but after kind of, like you said, thinking, basically it could have been worse. As Rich said, we don't have Biombo and MKG on our team. We didn't take back any super bad contracts. All of the guys that we have can play and kind of make us a more versatile and up-to-date NBA team. So when you include the Jermichael Green and Garrett Temple trade to the Clippers, which brought back Avery Bradley for the Grizzlies, and also getting rid of Shelvin Mack for Tyler Dorsey, throwing Dylan a bone, I guess, bringing his Oregon pal back. Maybe he can hoop. Who knows? His numbers weren't very good.
I think he probably gets waived.
Yeah. So
bought out or whatever.
But at the worst case, it's a young guy you get to bring into your facility and take a look at, who can play a combo guard, which is always a position of need for us. So, bro, from the guys we brought back in Avery Bradley, JV, DeLon Wright, and CJ Miles, what are you looking to see out of them for the rest of the season on the Grizzlies?
I think the biggest one. So like I dug into Raptors Reddit pretty far, kind of did some crowdsourcing to kind of like find out like what Memphis was truly getting, like were they, you know, who did Raptors fans think that who won the trade or whatever, and like those people love Valanciunas.
Yeah,
like
they do.
80% of the people, like a few people like were like, yeah, whatever, get rid of him, but at least 80 to 85% of the people just freaking love that guy. And kind of the same sentiment as when we traded Mark, you know, a lot of, you know, take care of our guy, he's Memphis or whatever. A lot of that come in from Valanciunas to us. He seems to like be a great guy, good personality, like good sense of humor. But as far as basketball, what I'm looking for from that group is, I think it was Rich that touched on it, the rebounding portion, because that was somewhere that Mark was kind of, he was playing more on the perimeter, becoming more of a passer. I mean, he's always been a good passer, but that was like his primary game, stretching the floor and not really banging down low, getting rebounds as much as we've needed. And a lot of games, I feel like that Memphis has lost, especially during that stint. You can directly look, and I've, you know, turned to Sam so many times during games. And I'm like, hey, look, we're getting beat on the boards. Like this is a sign of how the game's going. And I truly believe that. And we've kind of talked offline about how, you know, we want to see Jaren, you know, play more of a role, starting on the perimeter, you know, playing like a 3/4 type position. So having a true center in there, I think is going to be that could be pretty interesting and allow Jaren to kind of work on some more stuff and instead of having to be like glued to the block or having to play down there for the entire game. So I think Valanciunas and like what he brings is what I'm most curious to see how that like pans out.
Yeah, dude, the Athletic wrote like 4 goodbye articles to Valanciunas. I was like, holy shit, first of all, how many beat writers are in covering the Raptors for the Athletic? Because it's legit like 3 or 4 different articles. Just like you said, man, they love that guy. And a lot of love for DeLon Wright too. People saying they think more opportunity will be beneficial for him. He's a crafty guard. Like even if you look at the baskets he made last night, he got a layup on a fast break in which he had to go up and under the rim and kind of finish with some reverse spin. And then his 2 other layups are just kind of almost Ben Simmons-ish, like half spin moves in the lane. I like his game a lot. So that's the train I'm jumping on. And Chief, I know you're on the CJ Miles train. Is this true?
Yeah, I like CJ Miles, man. Like I mean, we'll get into this at some point, but the Pelly's game, he played the best of the new additions, at least the most efficiently anyway. He did. He was what we thought he was. You know, I mean, except for this past season, he's been bad. But you know, before he was a guy that's a classic 3-and-D wing guy. You know, who hits open threes, who knows how to play the game, and is just apparently a good locker room guy too. Not unlike Garrett Temple, although not as sung in that way, but has kind of that thing about him. So I thought he played well, and it just we'll be able to soak up minutes, as they say, just play like a lot of minutes at the wing spots and play solid defense, hit open threes, hopefully at a better clip than Garrett Temple. So I did like DeLon Wright too. He had a couple. I think he had a much better game. He had a couple open threes that kind of went in and out. So yeah. I mean, we could be looking at a 14-point in 20-minute DeLon Wright game that just didn't, you know, was like a couple of rimmed out threes away. So the guy, and you could tell like that there was one lineup we had out there. It was like CJ Miles, DeLon Wright, Joakim Noah, Jaren, and like Javon Carter, I think. And you could tell none of them had any idea what the hell they were doing because they've never played together. And, Javon Carter is not necessarily the best at initiating offense. He's still learning. He's a rook. So, and Jaren's obviously a rook. So that was a tough hang to watch those guys out there like play wide pickup ball for a little bit. But that was when you saw DeLon Wright like kind of he was like, all right, I just got to like make something happen, or else we're all just going to pass the ball around the perimeter and set like screens that don't go anywhere.
Yeah, so that was early in the game too, wasn't it?
Yeah, like second quarter or something.
Yeah, I remember looking. I'm like, what is going on out there? This is like you could clearly see that these guys hadn't played together. And
that's tough too because there's no practices, during the season. They're, they can't like they wear their bodies down, so they're having to live learn each other's games. And basketball's basketball, I get that for sure. But like they're trying to live learn each other's games like in game, against other NBA players. So that's always interesting to me. These post trade deadline teams that kind of come together and learn each other as they go. It's kind of fun to watch. Even other teams around the league kind of adjust as well. So.
Yeah, luckily we were playing a half-assed Anthony Davis in a bad Pelicans team to kind of get their feet under them. It may be with the All-Star break coming up, these guys will probably be moving into town, I assume. They would use this time, so maybe they'll be in town and getting some workouts in with the other guys and the coaching staff and that type of stuff. Rich, you got anybody that we acquired in the trades that you're drawn to?
I'm actually also a DeLon Wright fan. I kind of followed his career when he was at Utah. And I just always thought it was just super cool. Like, he had like the cool older brother that came straight out of high school to the league. Shout out Darrell Wright. And he kind of was like, groomed by his older brother, about the league and about the process and about that. And he balled out at Utah when he was in college. And I think he'll have a greater opportunity for minutes here in the M. And I'm excited to see what he can do. Like, I think he's got that West Coast swag. Like, he's a baller. And he's just going to, make some things happen in the half court as well as on the fast break. So I think if I'm hopping on any trains, I'm really, hoping to see DeLon Wright thrive out here.
Dude, and the defense with him on the court next to Mike Conley is going to be so much better than when Shelvin Mack and Mike Conley were on the court together. This dude's like 6'6" and long. He can block shots.
Yeah, it kind of reminded me of not MKG, MCW. Like in terms of defense, like he's long and can kind of like he can compensate for if a guy gets a step on him by just kind of being long and clogging lanes. And so that was something I noticed, and he tries, like he plays hard when he's out there. So looked to be having a good time too. I think getting out of that, like Rich said, that clogged Toronto rotation where they just got so much talent and every possession matters so much there because they're trying to win like 60 games. So and beat the Bucks in terms of the seeding, or at least have home court. So that's what when you get in those really good teams like that are elite, like a lot of guys can't even play their games comfortably because they're worried about staying in the rotation. So
especially point guards, right?
Yeah,
they're handling the ball.
Yeah, so I think he can play a little more free, which I think is going to bode well for his game.
Yeah, and then you think about pairing him with Kyle and Jaren and Ivan, and I mean that's a long team from
guys lineup
2 through 5.
Bruno,
yeah,
Bruno.
That's
But Bruno stays like his arms like. I think he stays at home and plays from his apartment. Just like reaches into the arena, and that's what we see. But yeah, he's long as hell.
Yeah, he got one rebound yesterday, and like a powerful rebound. I was like, he didn't jump. Like I had to double take. I was like, he didn't even jump on that.
Yeah, I waver back and forth on Bruno. So where are we on him? You guys want to sign him for the rest of the year?
I think so. I don't. I'm intrigued enough that I want to see more. I guess if that's probably the best way to put it. Like pretty solid defense, pretty streaky as far as offense goes, but very interesting. And I think it's worth trying to see if, in this cluster of a season, if that's like another guy that we can bring on and then potentially could be like a Grizz, for multiple years to come, like, Jermichael was, right? Jermichael Green, remember him?
Oh, that's your boy, I guess.
Consistent player in December, the worst month that we've had. And I got you.
When we lost 19 to 22 games.
Hey, that's not his fault. That's everyone else's fault.
Jermichael, he's not first team all slim, dude. He's not like Marshawn or DeLon or Lou Will. Yeah. If you're long and skinny, you can get buckets. Like you're first team all slim.
Yeah, if you don't like the pass, if you got a Jimmy. So speaking of our future, Rich, I'm gonna send this one to you. Our dear friend Chandler Parsons announced his return via Shams, his own media outlet. Are we excited to have Chandler Parsons back around the young Grizzlies?
First off, that was the most random fucking announcement to come across like my phone on a Saturday morning. Like, I was so confused. Like, I thought it was like some old shit, and like my timeline like didn't refresh or something.
Yeah.
And I saw that like it was an actual thing, and Chandler had made an announcement through Shams and the Athletic. I assume they have some sort of partnership.
Is Shams Chandler's burner?
Right.
I've never seen that guy in real life, so I don't know.
They've never been at the same place.
Yeah, exactly.
To answer your question, Slim. Man, I'm gonna say like at this point in time, I'm more so in the realm of if we're paying the dude, let's see what he can do. We've heard about the stories of the profanity laced practice, where he was like cussing at Chris Wallace and knocking down threes and shit.
I forgot about that.
So like
poor Chris Wallace, man.
He's a fucking bad. And like everybody hates him.
He's just walking around powerless, like getting fucking cussed out by everybody.
Right? Like, can you do that? But anyway, like
I just envision like Chris Wallace, he happens to he's getting his coffee and he happens to be walking. He's not even like watching the practice. And Chandler happens to see him up there and he goes like, "Fuck you, Chris." It's a three. He's like Jerry from Parks and Rec. Like just always getting shit on, and he bends over and rips his pants and farts like right then. And Chandler hits another three. He goes, "Fuck you, Chris." But anyway.
Oh man, sorry.
So I mean, I think this is like Chandler's last and final opportunity. Like he says all the right things. Sometimes he doesn't always do or post all the right things, but this is his last opportunity. I think if he comes in, and I'm not sure how much of a like time limit he's gonna have. I know him and JB have a pretty strong rapport. So if Chandler,
oh God, I forgot about that.
Oh yeah, don't forget. Yeah, man, they're tight.
Blood runs thicker than water, dude. Yeah, that Houston Rockets blood.
Blood, man. So shit, I don't know, man. I guess we shall see. I think that's where I'm at. We shall see. If he can fucking move up and down the court consistently and hit an open three, shit, why not? But I just haven't seen anything for us to feel like that can occur. So we shall see.
Yeah, and this announcement came on the same day that Chris Wallace is facing the media about the trade. And he's like, "Yeah, we're trying to win. We're trying to win."
Chandler petty as hell.
Boom, Parsons is back, baby.
He's like our big trade deadline.
Yeah, all this happened at the trade deadline. We moved some players, but guess what really happened?
Did I hear win? And then like Chandler Parsons come riding back into town.
So any other thoughts on Chandler being back, or just winning enough to convey the pick in general?
I mean, the non-petty part of me says it's a win-win. Either he like comes and plays 2 games and his knees swell up again, and then we're like, "Ha ha, we told you so," or he gives us something, So, but the petty part of me is like, man, fuck him. Like, stay on the West Coast and let whatever. It's classic Grizzly shit.
Classic Grizzly shit.
Yeah. What do you think?
Yeah.
What do you think, Slam?
I mean, so where are we gonna play him is my thing. At shooting guard, we've got Avery Bradley and Justin Holiday. At small forward, hopefully we have Kyle back soon. We got CJ Miles. We got Bruno, who's putting minutes there. Then we've got Jaren and Ivan kind of at the forward for the bigger guys, along with JV and Noah, who Noah had an amazing game last night against the Pelicans. And he's just bringing so much energy to this young team. And the guys are really feeding off of him. I think, who was it? Calkins or Harrington called him Uncle Joe.
Yeah, Harrington.
And that's a perfect nickname. Like, he's probably drinking hen at halftime and everything, and that's perfectly okay with me.
Yeah.
So I'm just worried. I don't want to take away from any of these guys who could potentially be a part of our future to have someone out there who can't play defense and ends up costing us games that we're trying to win. So it just depends on how much he's going to play and what his attitude is like for me And that's something we won't know until he comes back after the All-Star break, I guess.
Yeah, I don't want him to take minutes away from anyone. Like you said, if you can find a way to play him like 10 or 12 a game or something, or someone's in foul trouble, like Bruno was in foul trouble yesterday. He only played like a dozen minutes or something, but he had 5 fouls. Like maybe that's a chance to slot him in there. But there's been conflicting reports. Someone in national media said that he was going to be, quote, part of the rotation when he comes back. And then Harrington, in his weekly roundup, or maybe it was just his direct report, was saying that there is no defined role for Parsons yet. So that's up to the coaching staff and like game by game basis. They're not saying like you have to play him 20 minutes or whatever. Well, I mean, we'll see what happens with that. But ultimately, my thoughts were like, oh, okay, that's like Rich said. I was like, huh? Is this like the same Chandler Parsons that I wrote about like a month ago? That like we were parting ways and everything.
Yeah, but likely to never play in a Grizzlies uniform again.
Yeah, I was just like, I mean, honestly, I mean that's fine that everyone like I guess reconciled and he's gonna come try and play, and like Sam said, if he either can play or he can't play, and I think that's gonna be pretty evident right off the bat. So, it's just really funny, honestly. Like such a 180, such a pivot.
Yeah, I just can't imagine my work life being as unstable as the Grizzlies like moves have been over the last year and a half. Like, just it's ridiculous. Like Robert Perry, at some point, you got to be like, dude, this is out of hand. Like, I've got to get this in order.
I wonder if his engineers at his company, he just like exiles them, and then they're just like, "Nah, you can come back. It's okay. Just some more programming."
Yeah, like they just fuck a bunch of shit up, and then like he comes in, like, guys, we got to do better. All right. Right now, the Grizzlies are 23-34. As Chief mentioned earlier, we're 6th worst in the league, trailing Orlando, Washington, New Orleans, and I think we got a chance to catch Minnesota, Dallas, Detroit, and Miami, maybe. And over the last 10 years, the end of season win total for the team that finished 9th worst is 32.1, an average of 32.1. So we need to get to 33 wins. How do you guys see the rest of this season playing out? Can we convey the pick?
So when I looked at it before pre-trade deadline, I was like, based on how we were playing, I pick and chose like which games that we would likely win, and I thought we'd probably come up just shy of 30. So
and let me insert this. Of the 25 games remaining, we've got 10 against current playoff teams, which doesn't include the Lakers because they're just outside. We got one game against them. And I think that's about it.
Yeah,
so 15 against non-playoff teams.
Yeah, we got Thunder a couple times, Golden State a couple more times. Got some games in there that'll be super hard to win. But we do have a couple like tanking team games in there. I think we've got Hawks and Bulls and Phoenix in there. So
we've got 3 against Dallas, which will be huge.
Yeah, that's big. And I honestly think like the way we match up with Dallas is pretty good.
And I mean, like, they just traded everybody away too.
Yeah. Yeah, and they're not. Yeah, I think that we could steal 2 of those. But I still think that right now we'll probably be a little short of that 32. I'll have to see what like 538. They had us when I looked at it last like at 34 wins. They had the like aggregate total of teams in that range as a little bit higher. So we'll kind of see how that shakes out, I guess.
Chief, go ahead.
As we talked about, the reason we always talk about that 9th slot too is because if you finish 9th, then you for sure either convey the pick, aka you would not have a pick in the top 8, or you finish in the top 4. You're mathematically incapable of getting the 5th, 6th, 7th, or 8th pick, which would be the worst case scenario because then you neither get a good player or you don't convey the pick. So we really either want to get a good pick like 1 through 4, which you can debate whether that's good this draft, or convey the pick. So that's why the 9th slot is so important, and that's why we always talk about it as kind of the goal in mind. Yeah. So I mean, I think it's very possible, and I didn't know that about the playoff teams we're going to face, but it kind of gives us this weird amorphous goal because obviously finishing 9th is not exactly in the total right now. We won't know what that win total looks like until we get there literally. So it's going to be a fascinating kind of weird thing to root for as we go, and especially if we play Dallas 3 more times, who's right in there, right in that range too. So those are going to be crucial games. But they want to win because they convey their pick this year no matter what. So Dallas has no incentive to lose. So I don't know. It's going to be fascinating. I'm kind of interested to watch, and it gives us a weird rooting interest. Shout out Apple.
Rich, what you think?
Yeah, man. I think I'm just ready to convey this damn pick. I feel like you can't really fully commit to a rebuild while you still owe a debt, and we owe a debt to the Boston Celtics. And so I think, a lot of the moves that were made this week, aren't, gigantic moves, but I think they're bringing in young vets who can help the development of our young guys. We got rid of Shelvin Mack, J. Michael Green, and Marc Gasol, who actually, had one of the worst plus minuses in the NBA. So, they're actively trying to improve the on-court product. And so hopefully, that magic number 9, we can convey that pick and get this fucking debt out of the way, man.
Yeah, and it's nice to have something to cheer for, man. It's nice to root for winning. Like, even though that's not what the players are going to be thinking about, at least they'll be trying to win like they always are, and the fans will be behind them, not sitting there thinking like, oh, man, I hope we lose this game. Right. So we got 2 games before the break. I think we got the Spurs and Bulls, and Spurs have struggled on the rodeo road trip. And that this will be, I think, we're their last game before the All-Star break on the trip. So before we get out of here, Blue Note Baller of the Week from last week. I'm going with the Mac 11, averaged 19, 8, and 5 while being on the chopping block for the franchise. So shout out to Mike for being able to just kind of block all that out while he was on the court and win 3 out of 4 games.
I think you guys already know who I'm going to go with, and I'm probably going to go with him every week if possible.
The Rabinator.
The Rabinator.
The Rabbi.
He drew 3 starts last week, averaged 14.7 points, 9.7 rebounds, so almost double-double. Very reminiscent of one Zach Randolph type stat line, just saying. He shot 72% from the floor. He made a 3-pointer, so that's awesome. Not so great for the free throw line, but we don't have to talk about that. He also got a block every game. This week, I thought his defense got stepped up a couple notches from what we've seen, just with him getting consistent minutes, going against some formidable bigs, and even some really good passing as well. So lot to be excited there from the Rabinator.
And he's going to be starting moving forward, JB announced today. So we'll see.
Really? That's good.
Yeah, we'll see how long that lasts. But
yeah.
Rich, who you got?
Yeah, man. So I've got 2 actually. So for the first half of the week, definitely Mac 11. Blocking out the noise. I think he's said all the right things publicly. He's just a consummate professional, in all regards. And just to see him kind of block out that noise, still ball out, and he's the lone wolf out there now, man. He's the last remaining of the core 4, and he's the leader and the general in that locker room, man. And then I just have to give another shout out, man, to my man Big Stickity Joakim Noah, man, because that throwback Chicago Bulls performance like yesterday, man, he was in his bag, man, and he just plays with so much passion. Like, you can just tell that it like trickles down throughout the roster. Like, he's just one of those dudes who just lives for this shit. And when you got somebody on your team, everybody needs that type of guy on your team because it's infectious. And just seeing him just kind of just really be happy to be here, one, but also like contributing in a way. It's just great to see because he's come a long way.
Especially like the young guys, as we alluded to earlier. I mean, like they look to I mean, because like Harrington put it, it was like whereas Mark was like the stern, like scholarly uncle that would want you to like study and get 4.0s to get college scholarships. Like the Noah is the uncle who at Thanksgiving is sneaking you little bits of whiskey, in your Coke when you're 16. We all know like exactly that resonates with everybody because it's definitely a thing. A lot of people have that in their family, and or the uncle that is still unmarried and like talks about the glory, all that sort of shit. But Noah was something I was worried about too, because Noah was sent away. At least the rumors in New York, there was a period of time where he was sent away because the Knicks were legit worried about his influence on some of their young guys because he was, as he said, it was too lit in New York. So, I mean, there's no doubt the guy likes to party and have a good time and like whatever that encompasses, like it's his business. But, when it comes to 19-year-olds, like if you're a seemingly cool guy that seemingly has your shit together, you can really get sucked into some stuff. So like, it's cool that they enjoy being around him, and hopefully he's being a good mentor. And it seems like he is from the outside looking in. So, he had a great game. It was a lot of fun to watch. I go with Jaren. I'm looking at the games post Marc Gasol trade, and he's sort of, coming into his own, or at least post us sitting Mark, and is starting to score more, do a lot more, and play with a lot of passion, and the passion that we wanted him to step up into and become that franchise guy. He had 27 and 7 the game before last, and this last game he had a kind of a tough game. He got 2 quick fouls, and JB said in an article that I read earlier this season, he would have let those 2 fouls impact the rest of his game. He would have gotten frustrated, probably committed. The third would have soon followed there in the first half, but instead he stayed the course. I don't know if he picked up another foul the rest of the game. He ended up with 14 points, had a big and 1-3 4-point play. And then, was a psycho on defense, as Bro put it, was playing with Kevin Garnett intensity. Even if the offense didn't go his way, he's a real big talker. We had the chance to sit close to the court the other night, and you can hear him barking screens the whole game. Like he talks the whole game on defense, and it clearly enjoys that. So that's cool to see. Hopefully he trends up there, and it's fun to watch the kid, man. I bought a Jaren Jackson Jr. jersey the other night, and I intend to get it signed this year and have the rookie frame jersey. Hopefully he plays for more than 4 years for us.
Yeah, there we go. And he's already taking the big shots, man. I love that. He's not he's got some big nuts already.
He's not afraid of the moment at all, man. Like he's a goofy kid. He has a lot of personality, but like on the court, he really does seem to not be like the worry was the Dwight Howard thing. We talked about this early, like that, but he seems to be totally different on the court. Yeah, he's like jovial and 19 and talking about anime and shit, in the locker room, but like he's Super Saiyan Goku on the court for those DBZ fans. Got you a reference, man.
Very helpful for me.
For y'all three, right?
Yeah.
We appreciate you, man.
Man, you don't watch TV. Man, you ought to get back in the film room, bro. Hell, De'Aaron Fox loves that shit too.
What does?
Good for him, man. Good for him.
All right, man. Cool.
Anything else before we get out of here?
Nah. So everyone, thanks for supporting us. You guys, I had fun again. Everyone can follow us on Twitter at Backdoor Cut Show. You can find all of our Twitter handles in the bio there. Also, check out the-barnburner.com for Grizzlies, Tigers coverage, and a lot more good stuff. So, again, we appreciate you guys supporting us. Oh, yeah. Go to iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, all those places. The Barn Burner Podcast Network. That's what you need to know. Subscribe, get notifications, rate us. And thanks for listening.
How are we the only team to turn expiring contracts into more expiring contracts?
It is the dumb that never ends. It goes on and on, my friends. You can edit that part, or you can not edit it. That's cool.
Karl Anthony Towns stepping out of bounds.
Hey.
See ya.
Peace.